Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about something that's a little bit more personal when it comes to introverts, and it's about knowing yourself and knowing your limitations. Let's get into it. There's a lot of things that we've talked about on this channel already about how we could use our introverted nature and our qualities to succeed in business. But there's also some other things that we need to be cautious of and aware of when it comes to being an introvert in a business situation, in a teamwork situation, and some of the things that could be a little negative towards you, or negative impacts on yourself and your emotional state, that we need to be aware of, and these are things that we can work through with the right support, and the right resources. So this video is going to be a little bit different, but I thought it was equally important to talk about this, since we've talked about many other topics in business. But knowing yourself is one of the, I mean, let's face it, it is the most important thing when it comes to getting out there, looking for jobs, applying for jobs, going through interviews, working with different people, staying in that same position, or working on promotions, or, like I've mentioned before, making a decision to leave a company. That all comes down to you internally, and what you're doing, what you're going through, and how we can get to that place where we can start making those decisions. But it comes back to the very beginning of what it's like to be, in your shoes. And being an introvert myself, I faced a lot of challenges, and it's not like you just go through a stage in life where you need to like figure some things out and then you're like, okay, I'm good, I can go through this and I can figure this out and I can make decisions and my life is perfect. That's not the case, right? So one of the things about introverts is that because we are a little bit more of the mindset of preferring isolation and needing that isolation for recharge, even if we have a close knit group of friends, like we've talked about before, right? So I'm not talking about being exposed to a lot of people, just even your close knit group of friends, but even spending time with them, or spending time with a small group of people at work that you work with every day, you still need that isolation time and that recharge time. What's one of those downfalls, right? If we have too much isolation time, right? If we keep ourselves distant, if we don't even want to or feel like we can reach out to our small group of friends that we have, right? That could lead to more, emotional damage in the long run. And one of those may be depression, right? And it's okay, depression is really common, and there's different things that you can do to work through it, whether it's mindfulness, or getting a coach, a therapy, taking medication, right? There's all different kinds of things that you can do to help with that. But what we want to do, and what we want to make sure that we focus on is, yes, it's very important for us to have that isolation and that downtime so we can recharge, because it gives us that energy that we need to go out and be around people again. What we want to be careful of is making sure that that's not too extended, right? That goes on for days or weeks, and then we just start isolating ourselves, right? We don't want to turn and go down that road. The next thing that we need to be cautious of, as being introverts, is exposure, right? Exposure to a lot of people, a lot of noise, a lot of chaos. Walking into a very crowded amusement park, right? If you love an artist and you want to go to their concert, right, and you take the risk of going to the concert and being around thousands and thousands of people, it doesn't even have to be that big. It could be right, a friend's birthday party, and you may only know that friend, but there's a bunch of other people there that you don't know. If you have kids, right? It's one of the things that I faced. You go to a kid's birthday party and you may know the parent somewhat, or even if it's through school, you may not even know them that well at all, but then you're all of a sudden around all these people and you have no idea who they are. When it comes to work, being the new person, right, is a great example of walking into an office and being kind of like on display because you're the new person, right? So what I'm getting at here is a lot of these situations have something in common. And just because you're an introvert doesn't mean that that's the determinant of having anxiety, right? Could there be some similar situations where some of our traits that we have as introverts lead to anxiety? Yes. Does that mean an introvert is automatically going to have anxiety? No, right? I'm not a doctor, I'm not a licensed therapist, but speaking from experience, right? There are things that we do or that we can do to ourselves, like the exposure piece that I was just talking about, that can lead to some sort of social anxiety, right? That could be an overwhelming feeling and that type of feeling where you want to retreat, right? Or you close down. And so these are the things that we need to be careful of. It's especially in a business environment, right? Because everyone is the new person at some point in their lives. And if you change jobs and then you go and do it again, right? That's another form of exposure. Now that happens less and less frequently as compared to going to birthday parties or things like that. But it's still something that we need to be aware of. So what are some things that we can do for exposure and trying to, minimize that potential or that likelihood to develop anxiety over time, right? Because it's not going to be immediate if it happens at all, right? It very well could not. But there's some of us where we have to deal with this, deal with anxiety ever so often. So exposure is key, and I've talked about this before in my networking video, and that's using the buddy system, right? Having someone where you can stay close to, where you can go back to, where you can have that little piece of like isolation and recharge with that buddy that you're going to bring along. Or one of the things you can do is just like limit that type of exposure on a weekly or monthly basis, right? So it's up to you, right? You're in charge of what's going on in your life, and it's up to you about what you want to participate in or not participate in. So limiting that type of exposure could be helpful as well. And then the last thing that I'll throw up there too is having a support system overall. So it relates to both of those situations where you may be more likely to develop some sort of depression tendencies by being in isolation or isolating yourself, or places where exposure could lead to anxiety. And one of the things that we can use that's probably the most powerful that goes in both situations just is having a support system, right? Someone that you can call, someone that you can talk to, someone that's just going to listen, right? Someone that can bring you that comfort and that security. And I mean that can be anybody. That could be your significant other, that could be a parent, that could be your pet. It can be a combination of all three of those things. There is something that we can do, there's something that we can lean on in those times of need that's going to get us through, and that we can use that as often as we need to on a reoccurring basis to help us get to where we need to be, or help us get past a certain point in our lives, and then we can move on, and we can just take those little steps to exposure, take those little bit of steps of limiting isolation, just so we can stay up with the tasks that we have to deal with every day. So I hope that helps. These are some of the things that I've had on my mind lately, and I thought it'd be a good idea to make a video about it. If anybody has shared any of these experiences like I've talked about, please comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.